Mortal Kombat 1 Definitive Edition just dropped alongside a fresh new update, but that's not the only surprise. NetherRealm also rolled out the long-awaited MK2 movie skins. That means we're finally getting a better look at Shao Kahn, Johnny Cage, Sub-Zero, Scorpion, and Kitana, all reimagined to match their upcoming movie counterparts. The new character models are showcased in Chaos Reigns, and there's a lot to unpack. Shao Kahn has taken on a more monstrous, draconic look, with raw, fleshy scales covering parts of his arms, giving him a way more savage vibe. Scorpion's design stays pretty faithful to what we saw in the first movie, featuring his classic hood, mask, and armor with some samurai flair. Kitana looks exactly how you'd imagine her, and the resemblance to Adeline Rudolph is honestly spot on when you compare the two side by side. And then there's Johnny Cage. This new skin gives us our clearest tease yet at how Karl Urban might look in the role. That said, with Mortal Kombat 2 hitting theaters on October 24th, it's pretty clear they're saving the skins for a big tie-in push closer to the movie's release. What's interesting is that, even though the sequel is just around the corner, we still haven't seen even a teaser trailer, but the marketing is definitely starting to ramp up. Just last month, Entertainment Weekly gave us our first official stills, and sure enough, they featured the very same characters who just got new looks in the game. But beyond the familiar faces already revealed, the sequel is also bringing in a bunch of new characters. One of the most talked about additions is Noob Saibot, once again played by Joe Taslim, who also portrayed Sub-Zero in the first movie. According to people who've seen the film at early test screenings, his look hasn't changed much from what we saw before. Honestly, it kind of feels like they just took Sub-Zero's original costume and slapped a black paint job on it. That said, we still haven't gotten an official first look at him yet. Reports say Noob's powers are a bit more toned down this time around. Instead of the classic shadow clone that fans know from the games, his abilities seem more like dark smoke manipulation, more mystical than ninja. The only truly game-accurate detail mentioned so far is his glowing white eyes, which at least gives a nod to his video game origins. Overall though, his design seems less faithful to the canon than fans expected. Joe Taslim hasn't publicly commented on his return as Noob Saibot, but from what we've heard, it seems like this version of Noob might not be the same character we know from the classic lore. There's a strong chance he'll be portrayed as one of the Revenants, undead warriors who've been resurrected and stripped of their free will. That theory lines up with the confirmed casting of Damon Herriman, who's playing Quan Chi, a necromancer and one of the franchise's major villains. He's known for raising the dead and turning them into his personal army. Almost a year ago, one behind-the-scenes photo from the set showed a pale, ghostly hand, which fans immediately speculated belonged to Quan Chi. But that's still not all. Max Huang is also returning in the sequel as Kung Lao. Considering his character died in the previous film, his comeback might seem a little strange, unless you factor in one key detail. Huang recently retweeted a screenshot from Mortal Kombat X showing Kung Lao as a Revenant. That move only added fuel to the fire that the sequel will dive deep into a full-on resurrection storyline. By that same logic, Sub-Zero, now transformed into Noob Saibot, could easily be another Revenant himself, and maybe even the strongest or most self-aware of them all. There's a real possibility that Noob could end up being the leader of the undead warriors, either serving under Quan Chi or pursuing his own agenda, but don't expect to see Kuai Liang, the second Sub-Zero, show up. The chances of getting the iconic showdown between him and Noob seem pretty slim. From the sound of it, Noob's motivations will likely boil down to a personal vendetta against Scorpion and Cole Young, blaming them for his death in the first film. Interestingly, those who've seen early cuts of the movie say Scorpion actually has even less screen time this time around than he did in the first film, which wasn't much to begin with. The spotlight has shifted, and it looks like the sequel is putting major focus on Edenia. The scope of the world is expanding, the locations are getting more varied, and the story is leaning hard into political intrigue and inter-realm conflict. Producer Todd Garner has already made it clear that a big chunk of the budget and the creative energy is going into fleshing out these other realms. According to him, they want to showcase Edenia in all its glory. So far, we haven't seen any official stills of its streets or palaces, but the cast alone says a lot. With characters like Sindel, Kitana, Jade, and even King Jared all confirmed, it's obvious we're in for a fully developed Edenian arc. It's also well known that Jared's role is going to be small. Shao Kahn is expected to invade Edenia, overthrow the throne, and force Queen Sindel under his rule. And based on leaked audition lines, this version of Shao Kahn won't just be your typical evil for the sake of being evil villain. The producers have added some depth to his character, grounding his motivations in a brutal ideology of strength, something like a twisted philosophical Darwinism. In his eyes, the weak don't deserve to survive, and only the powerful have the right to rule. This approach puts Shao Kahn in a similar light to Thanos, with Kitana playing a role that feels a lot like Gamora. It's already been confirmed that her origin story will be explored in much more depth this time around. Her arc centers on her search for the truth about her past and her real identity. There will be flashbacks featuring a young Kitana. The role has already been cast, which hints at a more emotional and layered narrative. This won't be just another tournament movie. It's shaping up to be a full-blown family drama set against the backdrop of a massive inter-realm conflict. Kitana grows up in the shadow of a tyrannical father figure, slowly uncovers the truth about herself, and ultimately switches switches sides, choosing to fight for good. She'll also have a darker foil in the form of her sister Jade, played by Tati Gabrielle, who's set to be much more ruthless and aligned with the villains. The sequel is also shifting its narrative focus. While Cole Young was the main character in the first movie, this time it looks like Johnny Cage is taking over. And honestly, that's a smart move. The creators seem to have realized that Cole just didn't land with fans. As a character with no ties to the established lore, someone who never appeared in the games or comics, he ended up feeling flat and disconnected. The whole Arcana concept, dragon-shaped birthmarks, and the idea of unlocking powers through emotional trauma was met with a lot of criticism. Now Johnny's front and center. The sequel kicks off with Cole arriving in Los Angeles, right in the heart of Hollywood, to recruit Johnny Cage to the Earthrealm team. Classic setup. Johnny's introduced as a successful, egotistical actor who's a bit of a diva and totally dismissive of anything supernatural. He laughs off talk of ancient tournaments and interdimensional war until the action hits close to home. That's when Baraka, played by CJ Bloomfield, attacks, and during the fight, Johnny's own Arcana awakens. Just like the others, he's suddenly pulled into the global battle for Earthrealm's survival. From that moment on, the story kicks into gear, and Johnny steps up as one of the franchise's true leads. Cocky, flashy, but undeniably heroic when it counts. One thing's for sure, the sequel is going much bigger in terms of scope. This time the story plays out across multiple realms, not just Earth. Set photos have shown off elaborate sets that resemble classic locations like the Netherrealm and iconic stages like the Pit, but don't expect anything radically different or game-changing. The first movie pulled in a modest box office, decent but far from a breakout hit, and Warner Brothers seems to be aiming for more of the same. A solid, action-heavy flick built for longtime fans, packed with familiar characters and flashy fights, but without any deep philosophical layers or shocking plot twists. The producers are the same, the director is back, and the overall style of the film isn't taking a drastic turn. So if you enjoyed the first one, chances are you'll have fun with this one too. But if you weren't sold the first time around, the sequel probably won't change your mind. As for the visual effects, early feedback has been cautiously positive. The overall VFX quality seems to be on par with the first film. Not groundbreaking, but clean and serviceable. What has changed is the scale of the action. There are way more fight scenes this time. Mechard Brooks, who plays Jax, even claimed the sequel includes 30 major fights, and that they're actually keeping score, round by round. How exactly that's going to play out in the film is still a mystery, but it sounds like the filmmakers are leaning into the game's structure in a way we haven't really seen before on screen. What we're really hoping for with Mortal Kombat 2 is that it finally hits the balance fans have been waiting for. A film that leans into the brutal fun and wild lore of the games without tripping over its own world building. We want creative fatalities, tight choreography, and character moments that actually land. But the movie's got a few hurdles to clear. The expanded cast is exciting, but it risks turning the film into a crowded mess if not handled carefully. There's also a real chance the story plays it too safe, sticking too close to what worked before without adding anything fresh. And if the Arcana concept is still at the core, it needs to feel more natural this time, not like a forced plot device. At its best, this sequel could be a step towards something bigger. At worst, it might just spin its wheels in the same spot.